Hello everyone and welcome to episode 70, our first end of season special since the Resonance Arcade relaunch, aptly named Remake Roulette. My name's Chris and as always I'm joined by my co-hosts Dens and Matt.
Our end of season special is slightly different from our normal shows. We'll be summarising the other games we've played this month and going in depth on a specific subject we've chosen in the gaming world.
The first subject we'll be tackling is the ongoing trend in game remakes, reboots, and reimaginings. We'll be discussing the difference, reviewing the remakes we've played, and giving you our opinions on what the future holds.
But before we dig into that, let's quickly announce the season 1 winner of our competition. So every episode since the relaunch, now this is a bit complicated to explain. We're going to do a 10 episode season. 9 of those episodes are going to be standard episodes, and then 1 is going to be the end of season. Now, this time, because we started on an uneven number, we didn't start on the 10, divisible by 10, it makes more sense for us to just go, right, as of season episode 70, we are going to start again. We've had 4 test episodes. That's the way I'm looking at this. So what we've done, we have a competition, and it is called What Are You Selling? Each week... Hey?
I'll do the post for that part.
Yeah.
Don't worry. You
Oh, no. You can use my voice if you want. I don't mind.
Do you know what? Actually, just on a quick sidetrack, when you did it the other week, I put it literally over like the actual sound clip. You sounded exactly like him, and it was uncanny. It was ridiculous.
That is creepy.
It is. And, well, you know, I've got a good voice. What can I say?
Some good voice acting skills.
So, yes, So what we do, What Are You Selling, is every week, one host tries to sell a game to everybody else. We award points based on whether or not they can, whether or not the other hosts would buy it at full price or buy it at half, like a sale price. We'd been messing around with it, but we've finally decided on the format. We're going to do that as normal, and then at the end of the season, we're going to award additional points, bonus points, based on whether or not somebody's actually bought it, whether they've bought it full price, and whether they've bought it at half price, or 0.5 of a point if they add it to the wish list on Steam or on whatever store it's on. Because I think that's fair, I'd say.
Yeah.
I think that gives like a bit of residual value to it all, doesn't it? We all get to see how much we actually really like the games after we've slated them all so that nobody gets points.
Yes, so let's start with the runnings for the competition so far. We have Matt on 2 points, Danny on 2 points,
Yes.
and me on 1.5 points.
How did that?
Because I was the first person with a timer, and none of you liked me.
Right, okay.
And Matt's had 2 episodes as well, so that's what I mean. We need to start again. So,
yeah.
Episode 66, Matt brought Mario Maker 2 to the fray. He got 1.5 points. I said I wasn't going to buy it because it's probably not the building part isn't my thing.
Yeah, you got to rely on other people to make levels, and I mean, I guess you do that, but you're relying on people who don't get paid to make the levels, and a lot of them end up just being, you will die in 5 seconds, and then do you know what you do?
Spawn, and if you're not pixel perfect, you are knacked.
Exactly.
But Danny said he'd buy it.
I would. I do need to get the console, a Switch beforehand, but I would buy it if I had a Switch, which I'm looking to get, but it's way in the future.
Obviously Danny hasn't added it to his wish list, so he can't get any points for that. You have.
Oh wait, no, I added Space Hulk Deathwing to my wish list. Why not?
Hang on, we're not on Space Hulk Deathwing. We're on Mario Maker. Let's calm down.
Sorry.
Down.
I can't follow this at all, Danny.
Right, so Mario Maker 2. I haven't added it to my wish list because I'm probably not going to buy it. Danny hasn't added it to his, so you don't get any extra points. Danny, episode 67 brought Space Hulk Deathwing to the fray. Matt, have you added that to your wish list or bought it?
Scrolling through my wish list, I'm afraid to say I have not added it, and I have definitely not bought it.
I have not bought it, but I have added it to my wish list, so that's 0.5 extra points to Danny.
Oof.
So, episode 68, I brought Deep Rock Galactic. Has anybody added that to their wish list?
Yeah.
Me.
Oh, so that's 1 whole point to me.
Damn.
That puts me at 2.5 points now, and Danny at 2.5 as well. That's Matt. Hang on, no. Oh my god, Matt is now behind.
Yeah.
on 2 points.
2 points, yeah.
Episode 69, the last episode, was Celeste and Matt. So that means, Danny, did you add that to your wish list?
Unfortunately not, no. I think I made my opinions quite clear on that.
I have added it to my wish list. The reason I did that is because it's not the game I thought it was, and it is one that I'm actually interested in. I've seen it in a few sales and thought, oh, maybe not yet, but I will get it. And I didn't have it on my wish list, but I've added it since. So we're all equal, so we might as well not bothered.
Nice. Perfectly. Oh, I love it.
Can we play like the Soviet Union anthem over the top of this? Because we're all equal.
Yes. Communism for the win. So yeah, no winner this month, but hopefully next month there will be a little bit more, and we'll be a little bit more structured and careful with it.
Yeah.
So yes, we'll start again next week with episode 71, and we'll have 3 episodes each, 3 chances to sell a game, and we'll go from there. Okay, so summary of other games that we've played this month. This episode is going to be slightly different in that we are going to summarise things that we haven't necessarily talked about. Every week we normally talk about a single game we've played and a single game that we are going or we're looking forward to. Danny just doesn't play any games.
He's right.
What's the point in you being on the podcast?
I know, right? Terrible.
Is it to show off your headphones? Because you do look like you're doing a Lucio cosplay.
Yeah, I need a gun with a subwoofer in it. Is that what he has? Something like that.
I mean, I do need a project. I'll make you a subwoofer gun if you
Please
want.
do. I'll happily accept that. Yeah,
hello, wife. Wom wom wom.
No, it's not to flex with. It's not to flex on people with a pair of fucking headphones. I genuinely have an interest in gaming. It's just this month I've not managed to play anything that I haven't already discussed, unfortunately. But there is stuff coming up that I will be playing. It's basically waiting for payday, effectively.
Tell me you've got Steam debt, though. You've got games that you haven't played yet.
Oh, yeah, I've got absolutely. So a thing that happened to me is I recently changed out on my machine. I had a RAID array that would basically just whack 2 discs together, and I had lots of games installed on it. I then moved to SSDs, so I had to scrap my entire library because copying all that stuff across. So I've actually started again in terms of what's installed. So there is literally slim pickings installed at the minute, and I think that's probably why I've not played a whole lot. And you're gonna say no excuse, but
that's a rubbish excuse. What internet speed have you got?
40 meg.
All right, that maybe is an excuse. That's going to be a lie.
No, but now I've genuinely got 4 meg.
That's awful.
I know. I'm looking at getting Virgin Media in though. It's 200 meg soon, so we're all right.
Either way, though, it's still a bad excuse. It takes seconds to install an indie game that's got like 2 levels in it that you can at least have a quick bash at.
Let's have a look. I actually have an entire section that's just basically, I used to do Humble Bundle monthly.
Yeah.
And I've just got a load of crap games that are just stuck in a category that's not been played yet.
So many of those games aren't crap, though.
I know that's the thing. It's just getting over that initial but what's the word?
Crap.
Laziness.
No, not laziness. It's just like, do you know when you just look at like something on Steam, you look,
fatigue.
Not really fancying that. Yeah, you just like, I don't know if I could get into that. I don't want to spend the initial time getting into it to have it be shit, basically.
Well, don't. That's what I give a game a couple of hours. You know, if I've got it in a bundle, I give it a couple of hours, and if I'm not enjoying it, I'll just put it down. That's the best way I get through my Steam debt. And I've actually got. I've started categorizing all my games in custom categories, but I've got one that's just junk, which is games that I've played and I've been like, no, I'm never going to play that again. Just stick it in that category.
Yeah, that will do.
So let's get into the actual games that we've played then. Matt, what have you been on with? And bear with me, I'm just going to close my window. I shall mute myself.
Mute away. So this month, I've not played a tremendous amount, especially when looking at Chris's list, and it looks like he's literally just gone down a list of games that have come out this month and just gone, yep, and then thrown some indie ones in just to catch us out.
He's slating on you here, Chris.
What was that? Sorry, what have I done?
Exactly. We're now moving on.
Well, you'll have to watch the catch-up.
Well, you can get your word in edgeways. Yeah, all right.
So this month, I've basically only got 4 games I've played that I haven't talked about already. So those 4 games are Destiny 2, the new last year's expansion for World of Warcraft, which I never bothered playing, The Witcher 3, and Satisfactory, which is, if either of you know it, it's like the 3D version of Factorio.
I really, really, really want to play Satisfactory. Really desperately. I absolutely love Factorio, and I love first-person versions of any game. You know, I've played a lot of tower defense, and I loved like I've forgotten the name of it, but there's a Sanctum, yeah, Sanctum and Sanctum 2. I absolutely love that kind of thing because it's a new twist on it, and it gives you that manage. I was a big fan of the Battlefield 2 specifically. If you Battlefront, no, not Battlezone. There we go. I knew I'd get there eventually. Battlezone 2. If you've ever played that, it's kind of Battlezone was a tank game, but Battlezone 2 kind of was an RTS game with a first-person element. So you'd basically build all your units like you would in an RTS game. You'd build your base, and you'd take over like ore generating spots and stuff, and you'd dominate the map. But you could go out with all the units in first person and bat a crap out of it. It was awesome back in the day. Probably a bit dated now, like, but
yeah, that's such a great idea for a game. Though I'd love to play something like a modern game like that. Well, I love the idea of like half management sim, half FPS. It's right up my street.
You've got Natural Selection 2. That still actually gets played quite a lot, and that's a similar kind of thing, but it's on a smaller scale. It's not a big map, you know, like a Command and Conquer map. But that's even Battlezone 2. It's still well worth playing. I think it might struggle on modern computers because of resolution and things like that, but I bet GOG have a version of it, and I bet it's fine. So yeah, Satisfactory, absolutely cannot wait for it, but I want it to be off Epic Store.
You're going to be waiting a while for it, then, I'm afraid. But I will say that I have enjoyed what I've played of it. I never played Factorio just because there was something about it, kind of like what Danny said earlier. You know, there's some you look at a game sometimes and you think, like, I get the appeal, but I don't think I'd enjoy it. But Satisfactory, for whatever reason, I do. I can get into that. I'm not sure why. I don't know what the difference is. Like, maybe it's just the 2D versus 3D thing. Maybe it's just it's probably a personal hang-up thing I've got. But it's a great game. If you like to build things and then tear them down and build other things, then kick yourself in the shins for about half an hour because you built something in the wrong place, and then start all over again. It's exactly the perfect game for you.
Are there enemies in Satisfactory? Sorry,
there are, but as my understanding is, don't you have waves of enemies attacking you in Factorio?
Yeah, well, not waves. They get sent in waves after a while, but they basically generate all around your base, and they get worse and worse and worse the more pollution that you create in the world, which is created by your factories.
Okay. No, it's not quite like that as far as I can tell. You do have enemies out in the wild, and you do have to kind of go out looking for resources and things like that. So there's lots of berries and twigs for you to pick, Chris. You'll love that much. You do kind of come across them, and you have limited weapons to deal with them. But as far as I'm aware, you don't have any automated things to deal with them. So you don't have like turrets or things like that. You don't get invaded by them or attacked by them unless you walk up to them. So I think the focus is much more on kind of optimization and things like that. You know, you're getting your factory, your Satisfactory. And yeah, trying to make it as efficient as possible.
Yeah, I mean, that's Factorio. You can turn the enemies off if you really want, but after you get over the initial, what the hell am I doing? There's so much stuff going on. You figure that out, and then you're like, right, so one of my main focuses is getting at least some basic turrets in place, putting some walls up, and then I can basically manage it. And then at some point, they'll break through the walls, and you have to go and restructure that particular area, and you figure it out. You know, it's one of them games you sink hours, I mean hundreds and hundreds of hours into, which you'll know from, you know, the LANOps guys. Plenty of people play that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will be getting that. It's on my list, and I'll probably break my Epic Store embargo for it. There's probably maybe only one other game on the Epic Store that I'm really interested in, and it's not out yet. And it was that there's a shark game. It might be called Shark, actually. Can't remember. It's like an underwater exploration game, but you're a shark killer.
Oh right.
Can't remember what it's called.
Are you a shark or a shark killer?
No, you're a shark. You're an actual shark.
Are you a killer shark?
Yeah.
Wait, where did the word killer come from?
I thought might be the name of it. I can't remember. I should have done research before I mentioned that, really, shouldn't I?
Ooh, chopped yourself in it now.
Witcher 3 then? Why have you went back to... I presume you've gone back to that.
I did go back to that. I tried to play it not long after it came out. And the problem I had was I got so far into the game, I reinstalled Windows and it lost everything. And after that, I just kind of got a bit pissed off and thought, I can't be bothered doing it again. And it took a long time for me to go back to it. But when I did go back to it, I really enjoyed it. And again, kind of kicking myself like, oh, why have I waited so long to play this? I get the hype, and it's very rare I say that about games, but I do get why so many people consistently rate it so highly.
I went back to it a few times, but I've only played the first few missions a few times because I started it again on the hardest setting because I thought, right, I enjoyed it so much. The combat is so satisfying, and the systems, you know, all of the oils and the potions, tonics. I've got a name. Concoctions. That's it. Concoctions. Okay. But you buff yourself, and when you're doing some of the high level beasts, you buff the hell out of yourself with a million different concoctions and oils, and that allows you to basically batter any big beast. But it's dead easy when you get to the end because you're so highly spec'd and you've got all of the best armor and all of the best weapons. I wanted to make that harder, so I started it and got my ass handed to me by the first set of enemies. Like you spawn dead. It's just, but I want to go back to it, and I really want to try it. And I've got all the DLC as well now, which I haven't played yet.
I think that's the issue with a lot of RPG games. Though. It's the power creep. Like how do you manage it so somebody's not too overtaxed at the start, but isn't, you know, just walking around just boop bye at the end of the game.
Have you got into Gwent yet?
No, but then again, I've never been into card games. Like I could never get into things like Hearthstone. I know it's not really the same.
I never have, but my God, I got into Gwent. I got into Gwent so much that I designed my own game based around a universe for another game that I was creating in Unity, and created an entire like deck and set of cards for it. And I was in the process of balancing it and doing all the graphics for that.
I think I watched a video on that. You did like a dev vlog, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I did some.
To do with like networking and stuff like that, and like hacking.
Yeah, so the game that I used to do was I'm still got it. I've still got my. I still really want to do it, but I just don't have the time to do that. I'm a professional work. But yeah, it was like a hacking kind of parkour first person, like a Deus Ex crossed with a, I don't know, Dying Light now, I suppose, Mirror's Edge type thing. I don't know, but yeah. But anyway, yeah. So I got so into it that I kind of ripped it off a little bit with my world and my lore, and I just brilliant. Absolutely loved the concept of it, and you get really addicted to collecting the cards in the game as well. So it's a game, you know, it's like a meta game inside a game, and I really loved it.
And
oh, sorry, go on, Matt.
I was just going to ask, what did you call your rip-off version?
Well, it's Subnet Contracts, I think I called it, because Subnet was my main game that I called it.
I thought it was going to just literally be a rip-off of the name, like call it Gunt or something.
No, it was just a very similar kind of concept. It was a unique enough, but it was heavily inspired by Gwent, which was probably inspired by another card game, to be honest.
So you borrowed the ideas. That's okay.
There's no IP issues with it. Put it that way, the way that I designed it. But so yeah, and Destiny 2, you said you went back to, or you.
I've gone back to it basically. Just one of my friends sent me a message because I did play it quite a lot with him when it came out, and he sent me a message saying, "Look, I've logged on. It looks like there's a load of new stuff. Should we try it out?" And ever since he said that, every time I've been on it, he's not been online. But I've tried to make the most of it, and there are a few new things. Like I haven't got the season pass because I don't know if there's any point to buying it, as it's moving over to Steam now that Bungie and Activision have split.
Right.
So I don't really want to spend anything if it's not, because they're supposed to be making it free to play, and I think it's everything up till now, and they're also migrating your characters and everything else across to Steam. So it's a good opportunity coming up. I think it's the 1st of October it's moving, but they're launching a new expansion there as well as the free to play version. So if you want to try it out and see if it's your sort of thing, it's there to try. But also there's the new expansion as well.
Have you got any of the DLC, Matt? For this, because I got it free with a graphics card and I played all the way through it, but then they started releasing like drops and stuff, and I was just not that into it enough to buy extra content, if you get me. I was happy enough with it being free for a start. I say free, I paid out the ass for it really because I bought a new graphics card, but I'm just thinking, because I'll pick that up with you definitely if you're struggling for a player, because I want to experience it again.
Yeah, well, I when it first came out, I because I missed out on the first one because I didn't want to play it on console because I was being a bit of a pleb about first person shooter console.
I'm sorry. I'm still of that opinion. It's what with a control pad? No.
I am, but it's a Bungie game, and I'm sure you've heard what I've been like with Halo and stuff. And it's basically like more Halo, but like it's got that addicting quality of like, oh, it's Halo, but you can collect all these things, and some of them look different. Ooh,
Is I got the. I've never played it. I've seen plenty of footage, mostly like the literate, the marketing material. But
Yeah.
is it like a MMO? Is it a World of Warcraft type thing where you go into instances and then you do a run, a raid, and then you piss off?
In essence, yeah.
Right.
You've got your open world areas. I mean, it's not quite as seamless as like an MMO. Everything's instanced, so even the little world areas, and then you've got like they call them strikes. Or you've got different levels of them, and you've got raids as well. So the strikes are 3 people, the raids are 6 people, and obviously there's a kind of step up in difficulty as well. The raids do have some surprisingly complex kind of mechanics and things like that you have to kind of get your head around. But the core game is really fun. The combat's fun. The problem is that I ran out of stuff to do, and I ran out of reasons to keep playing it. And I wanted to enjoy it so much. I pre-ordered it, which I don't like doing. I pre-ordered the special edition that came with the first 2 DLCs. So I was like, right, I'm gonna love this. I'm gonna enjoy it. And that hype runs out pretty quickly. Like you play it and you think like, yeah, this is great. Yeah, this is okay. Something else has come out.
It never appealed to me personally, but I'll have a go with you. I'll see if I like it. I probably won't. But
if it's free to play, then that's the best advertisement I can kind of give for it. Give it a go. As I say, the core combat's fun. The shootings, if you like Halo style combat, it's fun.
Would you say it's like a Halo style combat mixed with Borderlands style loot collection and betterment with weapons and stuff like that? Because I think that pretty much fits.
Borderlands, I found Borderlands loot collection very, very granular because of the sheer number of guns. You pick a gun up, and then 5 minutes later, you get another gun that's better, and someone else gets like a sniper. You pick a sniper rifle up and go, actually, this is better for you, mate. And
yeah, or they've got a pistol, you've got a pistol, but theirs has got +1 more elemental damage, and you're like, you bastard! I can't believe you found that.
Yeah,
me.
Gives you a gun.
Go on, do as a swap.
Oh, mate. I mean, I guess it is, but well, yeah, I suppose it really is, to be honest. Although the biggest issue they had with the early version of Destiny before they started kind of listening to the community, telling them what they want in this game that is paying their salary, the biggest issue they had was that all the guns, they were just slightly better, but there was no change or variety in like the perks they'd have or things like that. And what the community was saying is, again, I didn't play, so I'm basing it off what I've kind of picked up, that when the thing they loved so much about the original one is they would go out and they would spend months and months and months grinding for a specific gun, but then not just like a specific gun with a specific set of traits which made it better, objectively better than it could be. And that for them was that was the fun, that was the quest, that was what they were doing. But that they have, to my understanding, put that back in, but I don't know if it's a bit too little too late for me.
What are the so they're making it free to play. What's their business model now then? Is it going to be loot boxes? Is it going to be premium content?
They've got an in-game store as well, so you can buy, I think it's just called Silver, super inventive name. So you can buy silver, and you can use that to buy things like, I don't think any of it's actually weapons or anything like that. It's all cosmetics.
Right.
So, but they are also selling the expansion. So the idea is you can play everything that's out now free to play. But if you want to buy the expansion and continue playing it, you can do.
So will you get ridiculed if you turn up for a raid with default underpants on then? Is that how it works?
Probably, but I mean, just touching on World of Warcraft, I used to do that in raiding all the times. I used to get in all sorts of shit for the things I'd turn up in. I used to do it just to kind of push people's buttons and see, like, I once had a guild master whisper me saying, like, "Why are you wearing that?" And I'm just like, "Because it's funny."
I had them. I can't remember where I got them from, but the spiked warrior pauldrons for ages. Yeah. I was a tank in World of Warcraft, and I had them for ages, and I refused. I thought they were so cool looking. I just refused to take them off, no matter how better they got, how much better drops I got. Yeah.
See, I used to turn up to raids. I was a warrior as well, but I'd turn up to raids purposefully in full light forge gear just so people would look at me and go, why? Why do you look like a giant golden banana? You're a tank. What the fuck are you playing at?
Are those polls by any chance how you got your gamer tag of Spiky then, Chris? Is that how it?
No, it's much more boring than that. I gave it to myself, Spiky. It's a really boring story. I'm sorry for everybody. When I was a kid, I wanted to be called Michael. I don't know why. And Spike came out of that online as just something I typed in IRC for the very, very first time I ever used it. And the H came as a joke much later on because everybody who was Leet was adding H's to the name. And I did it to take the piss out of people, and it stuck. Simple as that. And I'm a dick.
Oh, the fact that you were congregating with elite speakers and then ended up with a fucking name out of it is
elite
hilarious.
Name, yeah.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Yeah, I am a parody of the internet, of the early internets. Okay, so Danny hasn't played any games whatsoever, so let's ignore Danny entirely. It's probably why he's been silent. Have you played any of the games Matt talked about?
I played Destiny 2 before. I have
just
not
Destiny,
played. Not played I played World of Warcraft, but it was a long time ago. It was like a friend got me into it for a 90-day period.
Right.
And we played it for the entire 90 days, but then I just kind of dropped it.
It was 900 days for me. Real life got in the way big time when I played World of Warcraft.
I think that South Park episode did it for me, really. You know, the one, Make Love, Not Warcraft. I was just like, 90 days in, I was just like, oh, fuck, boys. I'm not ending up like Cartman asking his mum for the toilet to be brought to me. I need to legit do something about this. So I just
so young.
didn't subscribe.
That was like 10 years after I gave up World of Warcraft.
Wasn't that during, was it just before Wrath of the Lich King came out?
Just after World War One, I think.
During the war,
Wrath of the Lich King was no, it was Cataclysm. I quit just as Cataclysm came out. I bought the expansion, leveled up to about level 83 or something. I think it was 90 was the new cap or whatever. It was either 73 or 83. And I just thought, I'm playing on my own. I wasn't in a guild at the time. I'm not really enjoying this. I'm just sat down, recovering health, killing things, sat down, recovering health, and I've had enough. This is it. I remember distinctly. I can't remember the name of the area, but I remember I could probably find it again and tell you the spot that I finally camped in.
Here lies the remains.
Yes. Okay, so games I played. I'm not going to talk about them all, but I have recently got back into Horizon Zero Dawn. I played it when it first came out. I got it pretty much at release on the PS4 and played it and absolutely loved it. Have you guys? You will have heard of it at least.
I've heard of it, yeah.
I have it. I've bought it and installed it on my PS4, but I just don't ever seem to play on my PS4.
Yeah, I'm similar. It's downstairs in the front room, my PS4, and I don't really. It's not. My wife doesn't mind me playing. If I say to her, "Do you mind if I play?" It's just that when I'm sat downstairs, I'm done for the day with computers. I just want to zonk, you know. And that's hard work sometimes, picking up a control pad and pressing buttons, you know. But yeah, anyway, so I got back into it only because I finished Marvel Spider-Man. Finally, I had 5% left to do of the main mission, and I've had it for about 2 months to do that last 5%. Finally did it, last 2 missions, finished it off, and then I thought, right, while I'm on my PS4, I'll plug Horizon Zero Dawn in again, and I'm actually really enjoying it. I got a little bit bored of the grind because it's such a big world. And there's such a lot of things to do. It's that kind of Ubisoft. I know it's not Ubisoft. It's Guerrilla, I think, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Anyway, it's such a massive, detailed world, but it is fairly samey. After you get past a certain point and you've fought every single one of the enemies, some of them are just, I mean, there's one enemy called the Rock Breaker. I've just went into this like corrupted zone, which is like enemies plus. You know, they're really, really difficult. But it's like I think it's the last corrupted zone I have to destroy to kill the enemies in, and there's these 2 rock breakers, and they just come out of the ground, and like you can't really predict where they're coming from. They come out of the ground, knack all your health pretty much, and you've got no, you know, even if you've got potions and stuff, you've got no chance because the other one comes out of the ground and knacks you, and then if you're not looking, the other one's firing rocks at you, and you just get decimated, and you have to be constantly. It's really, really difficult, and I got quite frustrated with that particular fight. don't have to do it though, but I'm a bit of a completionist when it comes to these big open world games. Got to say, the combat in that game, and I know this is an old one, I probably talked about it on RA before, but the combat in that game is particularly good and satisfying. Lots of different ways to kill enemies, tons of different weapons, loads of upgrade paths. You can like add like materia in Final Fantasy VII. There's that kind of element to modifying your weapons. You don't chain things together, but it just kind of adds additional elemental damage or range damage or something on your weapons. But yeah, really enjoying it again, and I'm glad I've gone back to it. I thought I was going to leave it and never go back to it, but I'm glad I have.
So would you recommend that I go back and actually try playing it?
Do you like open world games where you have to unlock an area of a map and then basically are faced with a fuck ton of icons that you have to go and clear? You don't have to. You've got the choice of doing that. You can just go and do the main missions if you want. Do you like that kind of game? Far Cry type things?
I did, but I don't know if I've got as much time for it these days. Like Far Cry 3, I played to death, but then I never bought Far Cry 4. And by the time I got Far Cry 5, it's a little bit overwhelming sometimes, especially when you've only got so much time to actually sit and play something.
That's my exact thought. I finished on Far Cry 3. I got Blood Dragon. I didn't do 4. Considered 5. I borrowed a 5 off a friend and got about less than 40 minutes into it and thought, no, can't be arsed. But I get that every now and again, like when I played Spider-Man was extremely satisfying to play. Tons of icons everywhere that you just basically go and clear, and you can find random events on the map and stuff. But I liked playing it. You felt like Spider-Man, It's like the Batman games. Very, very well done. Extremely well done. It's quite narrative driven as well. There's lots of different paths that you can take. It's not choice driven, but it's fairly linear in terms of the story. But there's lots of different lines of narrative kind of strains that you can go off on.
Is that something that affects like the outcome? Like, do you get a different ending based on decisions you make?
I don't think so, and I don't think you really make decisions. From what I recall, it's quite a linear, decision tree. You just go to one place, speak to a dude, he whitters on about the fucking sun god and for a minute, and then he goes, "Oh, there's this new dinosaur that's suddenly appeared," and there's an element of mystery to it, like where the hell did all these mechanical dinosaurs come from? I haven't finished that storyline yet, and I don't know if that comes at the end. Unfortunately, I spoiled it on a wiki the other day because I was like, how the hell do you kill these fucking rock breakers? So I wikied it. And everybody pretty much on Reddit and on the wikis just like, no, I don't know, I've fluked it when I did it. Absolutely fluked it.
Do you know what? There's nothing worse than that.
Yeah.
How did you do it? Well, when I went through it, actually, the game floor disappeared and I managed to get to the end by falling through the map.
I just kept jumping.
There was a buffer overflow and I got infinite arrows.
Now, I would recommend it from my point of view. I don't mind that kind of game. 30 hours into it, I got bored. I left it for probably 2-3 years now, and I've went back to it, and I'm enjoying it again. I want to go and play it now, put it that way. So but I want to complete. I also want to complete it because I've got that completionist itch. Right,
I've never been one for 100% in. Never.
I got the bug with Super Mario, not Super Mario, Super Metroid on the SNES, and I got 99%, and I collected every single thing, and I'm still convinced to this day that there's a bug in that game, and you can't get 100%. I had everything. Everything was full. All my energy, all my missiles. I had every single item. 1%.
Just trolling you, mate.
Oh, bastard. Absolute bastard.
Ah, yes, but you left Samus Aran's spectacles back in the ship.
Yes. Right, I'm going to very quickly go through the other games that I played. Mostly indie games, as I think I heard you mention just as I was coming back from closing my window. Mostly indie games, mostly co-op or multiplayer couch play indie games, which I've been playing with a lot of friends. Extremely fun. Great to just kind of bash out. I said every Tuesday I go around a mate's house, take my laptop, my gaming laptop, plug 4 controllers into it, and just smash each other or co-op to death. Right. So, Stick Fight the game, brilliant, just daft fun, bit random. You do get a bit of skill involved in it. I tend to beat everybody else most of the time, but sometimes I don't. So generates a lot of laughs, put it that way. Splody, which is a Bomberman clone, which is actually a really good Bomberman clone and quite cheap. Nidhogg 2, absolutely brilliant tournament-based fighting game. Nidhogg 1 was brilliant, but Nidhogg 2 just brings a whole new element. Everyone was a bit unsure about the graphics because it's a lot higher fidelity. It's an 8-bit game, really, but this is like looks more 16-bit, and it's also there's more weapons in it, and it's brilliant. It's awesome. Been out for ages. I'd highly recommend it with any of your friends if you like a bit of competitive battling. Titanfall Ascension, been around a long time. Shoot arrows at your mates. Again, sometimes I'm brilliant at it. Sometimes I'm absolutely shockingly horrific at it. But there's lots of different game modes and modifiers and cool shit with it. Streets of Rogue Light game where it's not a Streets of Rage thing. You're top down little dudes. Takes a little bit for you to understand what the hell's going on because you just basically run into a level. You get 4 levels per area, and you have to complete all of the objectives in the level. Like if you can choose different classes, so you can choose to be a hacker or a soldier or a gorilla or a werewolf or what you unlock loads of different types of characters.
I want to be the gorilla.
He's rubbish, honestly.
Harambe.
And they've all got different. It's actually really, really complicated. They all have. Like if you're a scientist, gorillas are hostile to you because you're experimenting on gorillas, and if you're a thief, shopkeepers don't like you because you might nick stuff off them. If you start off with different items as well, and you get loads of different modifiers for everything as well. And again, it's multiplayer, it's co-op, or you can. I mean, you can't really play it competitively, but it is co-op. Me and the wife are playing it. She played the first few hours of it with a furrowed brow. Was like, I don't know why I'm dying. I don't know what the fuck's going on here. But if you're a gamer, you tend to get the idea. It's good fun, especially considering I got it for next to nothing in a sale. Super Hexagon, must have heard of that by now.
Mm-hmm.
Ridiculously hard. It's one of them games that you can watch on YouTube, and everybody, when people complete it, you're proper like Rain Man. How the hell did you do that? Ultimate Chicken Horse, one of the best games I've played for a long time. If you like Mario, you'll like Ultimate Chicken Horse.
Yeah, it's something I'd like to pick up myself. It's
a precision platformer, but it's parkour based platformer. Co-op only. You can't play it alone. You might be able to play some of the challenge levels alone. You actually can play the community levels, but with 4 people all placing platforms. So the format of the game is you start the round. Everybody chooses something for like the standard mode. Anyways, everyone chooses something from a party box, which is like either a platform or a trap or a fan that blows you in a certain direction or a door that opens or something. People place it on this random kind of grid map, like a Mario Maker type scenario, and then you have to try to get to the end. You get extra points if you kill someone with a trap. You get extra points if, depending on the game mode, like you can set it so the second person to get to the end gets the most points, so the person who's the best has a handicap. It's so much fun, and you basically will end up hating your friends. It's wonderful to play, really, really good. Fez, not going to talk about that. Everyone's played that in the world, but I went back to it with some friends who wanted to see it. Phoning Home, which is an indie game. I got it because someone said that it was like Subnautica, but it's really not.
Don't touch the Subnautica.
It's okay. It's got elements of it. It's a survival game. You're this little robot that looks like Wall-E. Or Johnny Five crossed with Wall-E. It's okay. I mean, it seems a little bit arbitrary so far. I'm not sure I'm going to play much more of it, but we'll see. Spelunky, rock hard platformer we've all probably heard of. Move or Die, very, very complicated, competitive, extremely confusing, mental amount of things going on the screen. It's like a brawler, but you've got every level's different. There's different mutators, and one level you have to shoot everybody while you're jumping in the air and spinning, so it's almost impossible to aim. Other levels you have to throw a basketball into a little hoop. It's crazy. It's a party game, basically. And Mount Your Friends 3D, which, just try it. It's fucking brilliant.
I played, they've got a 2D version,
yeah.
And I'm interested to know what the 3D version is, because it's pretty good, to be fair.
So the 2D version, you use the face buttons, Xbox, X, Y, A, B. So you one. It's like a QWOP type thing, but you're controlling your guy. In the 2D version, in the 3D version, it's very difficult. It would be very difficult to implement all 4 limbs. So you just use the 2 arms. So you basically use your paddle buttons left and right, or X and Y. My wife doesn't know left from right, so X and Y works better for her. But the paddle buttons are, great, and you can do some proper cool, like daft physics stuff with it. Good competitive game with your mates.
Cool. I'll definitely give it a check out.
You can take a breath now, Chris.
I was trying to get it in because we're running over by
4 minutes.
4 minutes. So sorry about that, everybody. Right. So, unless there's any other games you guys want to mention before we move on.
No. Unless Danny's thought of one.
No.
If you haven't played any games in addition to the 9 games that you have to come up with during next season, then you're sacked.
Okay.
All right.
Where did the 9 come from?
Well, the 9 because we're going to have 9 episodes, and there's going to be 9 games that you have to have played, or lie about playing during them. So you can lie about those 9 games if you want.
Who said anything about lying? I've never lied on this podcast. Never.
I didn't say you had, and say you could if you want. You don't have to tell everyone else that you've played them. You just have to have a bit of knowledge about them. See?
That's the thing.
Okay, so
the game I picked this week is Bloodborne Kart.
XL Alpha Wizard Plus. So our specialist subject this week, or this end of season, is Remake Roulette. We're going to talk about remakes, reimaginings, reboots, all the R's basically, and we're going to give you our opinion on them. What do we think? So I'm going to let you guys talk because I need a drink. Just talk. Well, Danny, what do you think about remakes? What's your opinion of them?
See, remakes for me, bearing in mind I have played next to, in fact, none of them. Not played a single remake that I can recall. But there's one coming up that I'm interested in, but I've also seen marketing material for, and I think they fucking ruined it. And also, just in general, I think remakes you have to tread carefully with, especially with obviously a fan base of an original. Is it worth not just leaving the game as it was and just leaving it be? Like, just to showcase the sort of skill sets and tools of that era, and just like, do you know what I mean? Rather than just being like, that was a bit shit, we need to redo this. Just leave it be.
Do you hate remakes of films as well?
I'm trying to recall a remake of a film that I've watched. I mean,
there's plenty there, but it's. Are you of the opinion that a film is not as good as a book, or a book is not as good as a film if the film came first, for example?
I'm trying. Right, okay. So the only one I can actually come up with on that one is World War Z. The film, I can't remember. Did the film precede the book, or did the book precede the film?
The book absolutely preceded the film.
Preceded the film.
Yeah.
I fucking loved the film.
Yeah.
But then went back to the book and was like, "Whoa, this is far fucking better. This is way, way better than the film."
How do you look at the film now?
But I look at the film, I still enjoy it. It's not detracted from the film for me. It's the book has a lot more there and a lot more individual experiences within it. But I'd still say the film stands on its own. It does. Do you know what I mean?
So
it's still.
Let's go back to the games then. So why is a remake remake of a game? Why would you want why is having a remake a problem when you could still got the original game to go back to?
See, when you put it like that, it changes the opinion slightly. It's he's
got you.
He's got me.
The reason I'm asking that is because I used to think exactly the same way about certain things, films in particular. I used to be very headstrong about but someone I can't remember who it was now, but somebody said to me, it's still there. You can go back. You don't have to watch that remake. You don't have to play that remake. I am excited about some remakes, but others I'm never going to touch. I'm not even going to. I might look them up. I'll look on YouTube or Twitch or something to see what they look like, and I'll go rubbish. What they're playing that for, but that's about it,
I mean, yeah, but it just I don't. Where do these opinions that some things need to be remade come from, and why is
Well,
it?
Matt, what's your opinion then of remakes in general?
Now, if a remake, the problem is you're always going to be treading the line of you don't want to upset the original fans, but you're obviously trying to bring it to a new audience. So how do you do that in such a way that keeps everybody happy? And the answer is most people don't, because fans, especially fans who are the sort of fans who are going to see something and follow it for years and years through the development, they have already made up their mind about what they want this to be when it comes out again. Whereas like the new audience, they haven't made their mind up.
Yeah, they've got no expectations, have they, at all? So it's
So
like, yeah,
But
I mean,
okay, so let's look at some remakes that had lots of speculation around them. One in particular that I'm thinking of that I've played both the original quite a lot and the new one a significant amount, not as much in the multiplayer aspect. Doom. The original Doom, it's bollocks now. I'm sorry, the original lovers of Doom are probably going to hate me for saying that, but you look at it, it's rubbish. You know, it's got bugs in it. It's full of it's shit graphics. The gameplay's really arbitrary and quite linear and quite boring to me. But the new Doom really captured Doom to me. What it for that nostalgia element, it really blew me away. Unfortunately, I had a bug in it that meant 7 hours in, I lost all of my progress and I had to restart. 7 hours in again, it did the same thing again. I was really annoyed and I haven't went back to it since. But it still felt like what I wanted Doom to be, and I much prefer it to the original now. It's still got a place in my heart, the original.
yeah.
But the remake or the is it a reimagining? Is it a remake? I mean, it's called Doom. Have you played the original?
I played the original. What are we talking about?
I think it's 2013, wasn't it?
The new one.
It's just called Doom. There's another one that's either come out recently or coming out soon.
Coming out?
Doom Eternal's coming out soon.
Doom Eternal. See, I've seen gameplay on the new Doom, and yeah, comparing the original Doom to Doom as in the 3D version, I'm assuming that's the one you're on about, then yeah, I'd call that a reimagining, because it's, for me, a remake would be like, all right, mate, let's make some 4K graphics for this fucking, just like, 3D
4K
sprites. That's a remake to me. I'd call it a
4K. Lovely.
It's, yeah, definitely a reimagining.
So, I mean, the reason that I brought that up in particular is that there was a lot of, what are they doing this for? Why are they bringing this out? Because id Software was bought out by Bethesda, and Bethesda wanted to make some money. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
All of it comes down to money. And it comes down to, as Matt said, tapping into the original audience, who are the 30-somethings, 40-somethings, these people who have nostalgia for it and want more of it, because we also have that a lot of people don't necessarily like change and don't necessarily want to follow a new IP, and that's why we keep getting new, like we get Call of Duty series, you know, we get these things that people just want more of the same or more of a slightly different, modified version of that. I enjoyed that experience, so I want more of it.
That strikes a chord with me, and it leads me into discussing a game that I was going to talk about, which was the Call of Duty 4 and then the Modern Warfare Remastered that they're doing. To me, I just want more of 4, but they're changing it and I don't like it. And maybe I'd then fit perfectly into that mold that you've just made there.
How are they changing it though?
They're just adding in like extra stuff, like turrets, like mobile turrets and stuff like that. I don't want it. I just want a simple game where there's not that many guns and there's not that many attachments, but I want it in an updated, well, I say updated engine. I want it in a more recent engine revision that you've done. And I want it to be exactly like it was when I played it on 360. But I'm never going to get that, ever. There's no fucking chance. Even if I played it, like, even if it was like, because they did Call of Duty 4, the, what the fuck do they do?
It came with, was it
came with an Infinite Warfare. That was, yeah, apparently terrible. I didn't buy Infinite Warfare just to get that, but they're just adding too much into it that didn't need to be there, and it's I don't think I'm going to play it. even. I think I'm going to leave
And
it.
that's a valid response. I don't have a problem with that. If you don't want to play a reimagining, I've got people who absolutely loathe the new XCOM series, that reimagining of XCOM. I absolutely love it in its own right, but I also absolutely love the original XCOM Enemy Unknown.
Yeah.
No, hang on. It's called something else, isn't it? The original, I can't remember. But it's totally different and much, much, much more in-depth and much more complicated. But then you've got things like Xenonauts, which takes the original XCOM idea and aesthetic and makes it into this crazy, even more in-depth, more stats and numbers and more complicated way. But it's kind of a spiritual successor to it rather than a remake, and not done by the same developer by any means. But the different places. I'll probably play the original XCOM more than the new XCOM more than the original, because it's got better graphics.
I think if it's just purely based on the graphics,
well, it is a simpler game as well. It's much simpler. It's more accessible. But I get more joy out of that than I do the number crunching of the original, even though I loved it.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like taking on the strengths of the original. It obviously completely opinion based. It depends on what you thought the strength of the game was, and taking that forward. Other people aren't going to think the same things, are they? Like me with the whole Modern Warfare thing. It's just like, for me, it was just like the little skirmishes you had with just purely guns. There was like 3 things you could call in. It was simple. You knew what you were dealing with, and it was fine. And then I feel like a lot of these, like especially first-person shooters these days, there's far too much fucking shit going on in them to be. Do you know what I mean? It's just absolutely nuts. It's just like, you've unlocked this attachment, and you scroll down a list of about 60 things, and it's just like, oh, that's what it was. Well, fuck that then. It's just not even worth it.
It's give me a millimeter more accuracy on that arbitrary bar that I'm looking at that makes no bloody difference to the gameplay whatsoever.
I think loud. Go on, Matt. Sorry,
I was going to say it's like the barrier for entry is so high, but then the rewards for getting over the barrier are so minimal. Like Chris said, it's like you'll get something and you'll think, oh great, what does this do? And it's literally just a bar is slightly further one way or the other, and you may notice it, you may not.
Do you not think that? I mean, we're getting out of the realm of remakes here. This is more criticizing gameplay mechanics and stuff. But do you not think that that's maybe an element of the publisher or the game developer trying to get you to play their game more because you're getting such a small, granular, progressive element to the game?
Absolutely, it's adding content that doesn't need to be there to keep people playing, and it's. I understand with a remake or a remaster or anything like that, if there are certain things that can be brought into modern gaming, sort of certain mechanics or certain ways of handling things, older games, for all the nostalgia we have for them, they weren't perfect, and there were certain things that could be done better now. But unfortunately, we do have some of the negative aspects of modern gaming creeping in, and that's the issue I have. Things like loot boxes, things like trying to sell you cutting content out to sell it back to you.
That just made me think of one that I haven't got on my list, which is Dungeon Keeper.
It's all right, Chris, because I've got it on my list.
Have you?
It's not written on there, but I do have it mentally.
So Dungeon Keeper, the original game, is fucking brilliant, and it still is. Right, I play it on my GOG account quite often. I played it Dungeons as well, which is like a modern reimagining. It's not by the same developer again, but it's kind of a spiritual successor. The same things coming out of my mouth about all these games.
There is another one as well, War for the Overworld. Have you played that?
No, but I've played Overlord, which isn't the same at all. But
no, it's basically, it's kind of just a skin swap of, like a modern skin swap of Dungeon Keeper too. And it's, if you like Dungeon Keeper, I should have saved that. I could have used that.
That's the thing. There's so many games I've mentioned that I could use in a competition, but we still can. You haven't sold me on it yet, so just make a note of it.
We're beginning a new season next time, so get it on there.
One thing about the Dungeon Keeper remake or reimagining that came out a few years back now was it was a mobile game that was all about. It took you an hour or longer. I mean, I didn't play much of it because it was like, right, fuck this shit. It was an hour of your. They're not called snots, are they? That's in dungeons. What's they called? Goblins or something?
Imp.
Imps, yeah. So the imps, you know, they take a few seconds to knock a wall down or something. And in the mobile game, it took an hour, and then you could speed it up with coins and gems and that kind of thing. And it was all about buying 80, and it wasn't by this again, wasn't by Bullfrog. It was by the publisher that had the rights to it, and it was to do and to make money. And it's like, it just totally and utterly, it was completely ignored by me as a fan of the original. What's the point in me spending my time on that when I can literally go back to it for much less money than it cost me to buy 100 gems and play the whole campaign through again on my current computer?
There's no... It's just such awful corporatization of the game, isn't it? When you see something like that and it's got basically nothing to do with the original game. I mean, I don't particularly like EA anyway, purely because they bought up companies like Bullfrog and shut them down. And, you know, Peter Molyneux, I mean, he's over here somewhere doing whatever he wants, growing trees over 25 years, which never really happened. But I'm getting a little bit distracted there. It's still... There's still so much that they could have done with it. Like Dungeon Keeper 3 was like planned, and now we'll never know anything about it. I would have loved to see them make a modern version of Populous, and I guess they kind of did with like Black and White, but it's still not quite the same. But there's just so much potential flushed down the drain because EA has their own way of doing things, and not just EA, Activision, Ubisoft, any big publisher has their own way of doing things, and if you don't do it, then see you later, we'll keep your property, but there's the door.
Yeah, it's a corporate machine. That's the problem. It's not something the developers themselves can. If the developers aren't making money for a publisher or making money for their parent company, the development studio gets closed down. Simple as that. And that same applies in any kind of business world. And that's the thing. As gamers, we don't look at this as a business. We look at this as entertainment, and we look at it as a right, almost a right that we have to comment and get what we want. And it's compounded by the fact that these days we have developers, indie developers, and also AAAs doing more open development, live streaming things, taking early access money off people early, and then taking feedback and developing the game based on that. Sometimes that works out really well, sometimes it doesn't. That's something else we should probably have a subject about, is early access and that culture.
Definitely.
I mean, I've got tons of games on my list that I've played. I can go back to, and every single one of them comes down to money. I can go back to the original Prince of Persia. I don't know if either of you have ever played that, but I have many. Sorry,
Prince of Persia Classic.
Yeah, like the very original Atari, Amiga, Commodore. Wasn't on the Commodore; it was on the Amiga. I have so many. It was one of the first games where there was secrets in it. You could just randomly find. There's no internet to look this stuff up, but you could randomly find a loose ceiling tile and find a little secret area and go and get an extra potion or something in it. And it was just cool, and it was challenging. It was hard. I never completed it. I think there was a point you got to where you were fighting yourself, and you
plug the controller into port 2.
Yeah, well, it mirrored everything you did, and that mechanic, I don't know if they took it from anywhere else, but that mechanic's been mirrored in games like Zelda these days as well. And the way that you get over that is you put your sword away and walk past them instead of fight them, because otherwise you just, anyway, I'm spoiling the game for those people who haven't played a 30-year-old game. But the remake of Prince of Persia, there's been 2 reimaginings of it. One was the Sands of Time era, which was the action platformer, which my friend, I never played it, but my friend played it a lot. Did you say you played it, Dan?
I played Sands of Time. I think it was just one of the, like, it was a game that my dad brought home. He's like, "Mom, my computer run that, play it," and I was just literally just got into it, and I was just like, "Holy shit, this is actually quite good." Like, I enjoyed it, but never having played Classic, I've nothing to compare.
Could you could reverse time in it, couldn't you?
You could, yeah.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting thing, especially in games like back then. For me, I was like, "Holy shit, this is amazing!" Like, never done before. But obviously, my limited gaming experience back then, I don't know if it was done before, but it was challenging. And I think the overall, just like the way you had to figure out how to fight a boss was quite entertaining. Like, it was one of those eras where, I mean, we had internet, but it wasn't quick, and I don't think many people were writing guides up for that kind of thing. But
was it PS2 era? Was it earlier than that?
I think it was PS2 era, as I remember.
But
I only had it on PC, so I can't say whether it was PS2 era. But
it's a totally different game, though. That's the point.
Oh yeah.
And then there was also the Prince
different.
of Persia remake, which was the single game, which came out 360 era. I played it on the 360, and that was more of a linear, story-based climbing simulator. You didn't.
I think, yeah, because I didn't play that. I watched a friend play it because what used to happen is if I ever got like a game for free or something, like one year my Xbox broke and I bought a new one and they give you a free game. I watched him play it and I was just like, well, he completed it in a night and I was just like, that was nowhere near as good as Sands of Time was. So
no, it wasn't.
Yeah, so they did a Warrior Within though, didn't they? Warrior Within was the second one after Sands of Time, and then there was just Prince of Persia. I think it was on the 360.
I'm not sure if there was another one after that. I can't remember, but I didn't get it. If there was.
I remember there being one with like a floppy haired emo cover on the front of it.
That was the that was the third remake, the third reimagining, which is the one we were just talking about. And I think they might have done a second one in that franchise. I can't remember, and please don't quote me on that.
But yeah, looking at it that way, I suppose, yes, remakes are and can be good.
They can be, but again, why was it made?
That's true. I mean, I feel differently, I suppose, about 2D to 3D. I think there's something. Do you know what I mean? It's just bringing it into. This is probably going to contradict something I've said prior, but I don't care. Bringing it into the new era with something that back then, yes, was very technologically limited. It's just like you can only fit this game in this amount of memory to do what you can, and obviously processing power was limited, etc., etc. But I think now my gripe is with 3D stuff, like especially stuff that still stands up today. Why would you remake it? Like it's already in. You're not getting unless it's VR. Unless we're moving on. Just leave it alone.
Let's go to the extreme of a remake, a HD remake, right? We had PS3, we had The Last of Us got released. And then the PS4, and in fact, I think even on the PS3, they remastered it.
I think that's just a cash grab scenario.
Yeah.
It is, absolutely. I mean, I've got a bit of time for Naughty Dog. Their games aren't my thing, really. Again, too linear, too story heavy, not... I mean, Last of Us was brilliant. I really enjoyed the game, and I'm looking forward to the second one. But the whole Uncharted franchise didn't do much for me. I've got them. I've desperately tried to play them a number of times and just got really, really bored very quickly. But that to me was utterly. It was an insult. But I also wouldn't have played that game if there wasn't a remaster because I didn't play the original. I got the remaster on the PS4 because, actually, I think it was a present somebody got me because I put it on my wish list on Amazon and I was lucky to get it. And I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't have been upset if I missed out either. But, I mean, that's the only example of that I can say that I've had a remake and... I don't know.
I think it's one of them, isn't it? Because it coincided so closely with the, like, moving of... one console generation to another, that's rubbing salt in the wounds, isn't it? It's just like, oh, we've got this new console now, we need to republish our game and sell it on both platforms. What the fuck?
Although that has happened on every console since the every iteration of the PlayStation. You had Shadow of the Colossus and Ico on the PS2, PS3 remastered, PS4 remastered again. But people, because of the nature of the game, it's got this kind of holier than thou online presence where people would never say anything against it because it's got such a great following. And I have played the game, and it is a great game. But
I got bored of it, you know.
Did it need to be remastered?
I don't know. I don't know what. I haven't looked. I haven't compared them. And was it a HD remaster, or did they add stuff to it? Was it just graphics?
Just graphics.
So I would call that true remastering, like just remastering the content that's already there, kind of thing.
Yeah, which I mean,
in essence, that's what a remaster is, isn't it? It's not adding anything new. It's just working with what you've got to make it better. So,
but does that say something about the game content, the game's original design, that it's good enough to sell to a new audience, or are they trying to play on the nostalgia element, which, however many years it is, might not be as nostalgic as Doom versus Doom, you know? Are they playing on the element of right, someone bought it last generation, so they're going to buy it this generation and the next generation as well? Or is it for the new generations? I mean, I'd like to see the sales figures on that if they ever did demographics. I probably didn't. So.
I would be interested to know like what sort of people are buying the games, whether it's the same people. Because I do know people that have bought just the same game in like 3 or 4 different formats. I had a friend who bought GTA 4, and then he bought GTA 4 on the Xbox, and then he bought a new Xbox, and then he bought it again.
I have GTA 5 on 3 platforms, but only because I was playing with friends on different platforms for about 5 minutes. I mean, ridiculous. I've spent so much money on that game and got bored of it in the same amount of time online with each set of friends, you know, so it's my own fault. Okay, other remasters then. So I noticed that you've got Counter-Strike down, Matt, on your little list.
Well, I don't know how that kind of works out, because to me, I've played enough Counter-Strike, like not competitive or anything like that. I'm not big on competitive FPS, but I've played enough of it to kind of feel like Source to Go wasn't a tremendous leap. Like it wasn't like a sequel. So what else could I really call it other than like a remake or, you know, not really a remaster? But
I think there was a few iterations of CS though, wasn't there? Because there was the original mod, which was Half-Life 1.
I think so. And then there was
the Source version, which was Half-Life 2 engine, but a completely separate game. And now there's Counter-Strike Go, which is... I mean, I haven't played Go. I've only played Counter-Strike and the original Counter-Strike and the second Counter-Strike. What is Go vastly different? Is it a new game? Is it exactly the same concept with a few tweaks?
I wouldn't say it's a new game at all. I'd say it's a new, as far as I'm aware, it's Source 2 engine that Go's made in.
Yeah.
I can't really say enough about it to say like it's a new game. Like I'm sure things have been tweaked, but not anything that me as kind of a casual player of it would really notice.
Yeah, because I played, what was it? I think I got introduced to it around, I don't know if I played 1.6 or anyway, I played an earlier version than Go, and Go it is just exactly the same thing that you're doing, but the tiny changes in the mechanics have been made, and I think that's mainly to do with competitive play with it, because they've made it an esports game, and that's all the difference is really. You could go back to the other games and carry your skill with you, bar a few tiny things that don't quite work the same, like for example how the scope works when you're running and stuff like that, but for the most part,
so we can count that as a remake, a reimagining, or a reboot.
I guess I'd say a reboot, because it's kind of all the same ingredients. Like, I mean, even like a lot of the maps carry over, so it kind of says like they want you to just move on to this next product. You know,
which is like the next version of FIFA to an extent. You can count them as remakes, really, couldn't you?
In essence, yeah.
But that is definitely a money-making escapade, a yearly release of sports games, you know.
I have bad opinions on sports games. I have purchased a wholehearted one in my entire life, and I will never purchase one again.
One more
but I've got friends at work who play. Do you know every time a new one comes out, it's what's different. What I don't understand is why I wouldn't mind so much if they just made a King subscription based like WoW and just continually added to it, and like, all right, maybe chuck us a tenner here or there but they don't. They want the full 40 quid every time.
And then microtransactions and everything else.
Microtransactions and all the bullshit with the cards and the packs, and then
these games appeal to the masses, don't they? They don't appeal to the
they're not like
elite. The elite
gamers.
master race gamers.
Where's my fan blowing in the wind?
Remember that we are slightly more spoiled and slightly more educated when it comes to games. And I'm not saying we're better anyway. I'm just saying that we have had it better for a long time in terms of the way that we engage with our gaming library. Yeah. Whereas console players, which is generally what the FIFA market and the UFC market and the WWF market and all of the big sports titles that have annual releases, that's what they're aimed at. They're aimed at people who are fans of that game, of that thing, and don't play anything else but WWF games because they go to wrestling matches, and it's totally different for us.
It's quite depressing, really, when you think about it.
It is. It's capitalist. It's back to that again. So, I think we have a conclusion.
Go on.
The
Probably
conclusion
don't.
The conclusion is that we don't really know. Some of them are okay, others aren't.
Yes, I think.
Dear listener, we have answered your question.
When we look at the remasters, remakes, and reboots, each one is its individual. It's like treating a patient in a hospital. Everybody is individual, and everybody, no matter what they have, what ailment they have, if someone comes in with a heart attack, it's different from the last person who had a heart attack. You know, every game is different, and every remake, reboot, and reimagining is different. I, for one, am excited about the Final Fantasy VII reimagining. Because it is a reimagining. It's nothing. It's got lots and lots of elements, but it's a complete remake, and not reimagining. It's a complete remake of the original game, which it needed to be, because the original game, as awesome as it is, and as much of a nostalgic, brilliant kind of experience it was back then, I've played it through God knows how many times. I've literally lost count. I know it off by heart, but it's shonky as fuck. It's the most disjointed experience I've ever experienced in a game. You know, it's got so many different concepts and ways of doing things, and there's no normalization there. You know, I can't wait for the reboot, because it's going to have Cloud in it. It's going to have Air. It's going to have all the same characters. It's going to add voices to them. It's going to make them hopefully more believable, and flesh them out a lot more. And hopefully he's going to follow roughly the same story. And I think it will, looking at everything that's come out so far. There would be folly to not do that.
Yeah.
Again, this goes back to the original fans. But then also they're going to add new elements to it. It's a real live combat system. Some people have strong opinions that it's not the active time battle, but that's still kind of there. They're kind of hacking it in a little bit, like the original, like Final Fantasy 15 has got kind of a active time battle type thing, but I prefer that. No, actually, I'm not sure I do. But I also cannot wait for how they implement materia, because that is by far, the Final Fantasy VII is by far the best system I found throughout all of the Final Fantasies I've played. It's the most satisfying to combine everything together in the way that materia works. I hope they keep that. I know it's there, but whether or not it has the same feel and kind of, right, I can now execute something that's going to do 2 billion damage to this particular boss and take 25 minutes to execute, you know, that's what I'll miss if they don't have that in there. Yeah. So anyway, waited on. We weren't going to talk about future remakes. We were, but we don't have enough time. We well and truly ran out of time today. So unless there's anything else you guys specifically want to say or want to summarize, we shall close the show.
I just think, kind of like a little editorial standpoint from myself, just with regard to remasters, I think the biggest difference between a good remaster and a bad remaster is it being produced by the original company or the original people that had this idea? Is this somebody's passion project, going back and saying, I would have loved to have done this 10, 15 years ago when I made the game, I just couldn't for whatever limitation? If somebody's doing that, if the original creator wants to go back and say, I want to do this the way I always saw it in my head, I'm so excited to see it.
Shenmue?
I don't know, because I think that game's aged a little bit like milk.
Yeah, and the original, again, has a massive following, but it's been done by the same developer. He's basically been given a budget that's like, here you go, do what you want. I'm a bit worried about that game.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on it.
I'm keeping an eye on it, but a bit worried.
I think what I'm trying to get at is, if the passion's there to do the game properly, then I'm interested to see what they do with it. If it's purely done as, oh, well, people like this, so we can kind of scrape some more money from the bottom of the barrel here, guys, then no, I'm not really feeling it. Sorry.
What are your closing comments, Danny?
Yeah, I think, my opinions, I think, obviously wavered and changed now, but I definitely align on the fact that it is very individual as to the game. Obviously, as we have expressed in this podcast, and I should be sacked for, I haven't played any remastered games, but I think that's because, I think that's mainly because nothing that I played as an original really came across as a remaster. I think there's a very specific type of, do you know what I mean? It's not all games that will get remastered, as it were, and obviously it's just luck of the draw that some of the ones that I played as a younger kid haven't come across as remasters yet that I would have picked up anyway. So, but I definitely agree. Yeah, definitely an individual thing. And on one extreme, we have like the FIFA series and the sports kind of games and stuff like that, which is just, yeah, definite money scraping. And then you've got the passion projects that you mentioned as well. And I think given the opportunity to play something that, like, for example, I'm not. This is completely made up, but if they did a Time Splitters remake, I would play that because I want that game again. But the old one aged badly.
Yeah, you'd hate it. That's the thing.
I know, but I'd want it, and then I'd probably have a really sour opinion of it.
But would you want it to be a HD remake of the original with a new engine, or would you want it to be a reimagining like the Final Fantasy VII?
No, I wouldn't, because it's the nostalgia for me. Like a lot of the story and how it plays out, and a lot of the comedy in the game, it needs to still be there to be a Time Splitters game. But
my name's Daniel, and I don't do change.
I don't like
change.
I just like my graphics, boys. All right, just leave me alone.
It just needs better graphics, pretty much.
Just a little note on that, Danny. There is actually a fan-made remake of Time Splitters. I forget the name of it, but I will look it up for you.
I think I've seen it, and I don't think it inspired me all that much. But I'll give it another check
because it's not exactly what I think it should be.
It's not HD enough. What's this? It's only 1440p. Fuck off with it.
This won't run on my PlayStation 2. It's crap.
But yeah, that's my stance, I think. Yeah.
I think mine is capitalism is necessary in the world to advance us. But unfortunately, it's also ugly in a lot of ways, and we are unfortunately we're blind to it a lot of the time. We see these things through rose-tinted glasses, and we want them. I know it's taken so long to get this I keep going back to it. The Final Fantasy VII remake signed off. They are releasing it in things like in episodes, and I'm unsure about that. Does that mean that they'll release one episode and then they'll make tons of money on it and then just go, actually, no, we're canning it? And that'll be like,
yeah.
Or will they release the second episode at triple the price? Will we get enough content in the first episode? You know?
Like a dealer.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And they can do that.
Hooked.
And they can do that with people like me who want this remake. And I am genuinely bought into it, and I don't see anything that I've seen so far that's not excited me. They're doing something right. But am I being a sucker because of that? Am I buying into this corporate machine? Am I... Oh, I don't know.
Yes.
No. In a way.
Or is it done by... Because it's done by the original developers. Is it a passion project? Have they literally been given free rein to do what they want to do? They don't want to go back and... They can't remaster the original game anyway because they've lost all the original assets. So it's a no-go. But either way, it would be extremely difficult for them to do that technically. So, anyway, let's end the show. We can go on about this forever. So thank you very much to everybody who's listened. We'll see you next time on Resonance Arcade.
And you can watch... Oh, who's going first?
Oh,
you sounded like you wanted to talk.
According to the script, it's me, Danny. I know you're not very professional today, but let the professionals do their job.
I think Matt. I think you'll find that it's actually Danny next.
So I'm going to step back and let the professionals do their
job. As I was about to say. You can watch all of our shows on youtube.com/Resonance Arcade and visit our website at resonancearcade.com, where you can find info about the show and links to all of our social channels.
You can follow us on Twitter at Resonance Arcade, where we publish show announcements and news. And finally, you should join us in Discord on discord.resonancearcade.com, where we hang out and discuss all things gaming.
And all that's left to say is goodbye, and I promise that both Danny and Matt will sound less like robots at some point when they're reading the script. See you later.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.